Assalamualaikum and a very good day I bid to everyone. Today we are from Group 6 are going to present about the documentary review assignment entitled Chasing Coral. Group 6 consists of 5 members which are Nur Azra Farisha binti Muhammad Azam, Nur Ain binti Abdul Muttalib, Nur Aisyah binti Nur Azizi, Nur Aisyah binti Zahrilal, and the last one is Nur Alia Natasha binti Nur Azuhar.
Hello everyone, my name is Noor Azra Farisha binti Muhammad Azam and my matrix number is 216066. And today I would like to elaborate about the theme and the plot, synopsis or summary of this documentary. The theme that I can conclude of this documentary is the disappearance of coral reef. Casing Coral is a film about the physical evidence of the decline of coral populations across our world's oceans. The film has the main protagonist, which is Richard West. West was a London advertising executive and spent 10 years climbing their career ladder. After he had enough of selling toilet paper, he moved to Australia to pursue his dream of marine photography. Once he had realized how heavily affected the coral in the area had been, this is what made him decide to focus on coral to prove the wasting away out of marine ecosystem was now that the main way to get people attention directed towards the ocean was to show them. So he decided to start documenting all the staggering change to marine ecosystem over the years. He goes to American Samoa to visit the airport reef. Once he dove under the water, he could see that the entire reef had turned white from bleaching. When he saw the extreme damage done to the coral reef, he knew that he had to take things more seriously. Coral reef bleaching is caused by a rising in temperature about 2 degrees Celsius. The bleaching are a form of stress response to the coral. The rise in temperature caused by phytoplankton to decrease in surrounding areas, which leave the coral no food to survive off. This leaves the coral to end up with being almost this leaves the coral to die and out with being almost fuzzy as the cell begin to stop functioning. The film crew had the idea to build an underwater container for a camera that would automatically transfer photos or video to a safe computer on a boat above the camera's location via an umbilical tie cord. To keep the camera's viewpoint, they install a windshield wiper type structure to clean the glass container. This is how Wes end up meeting the second protagonist of this film, which is Zash Rago. Then they picked up their gear and flew out to Hawaii, Bermuda, and the Bahamas. These were the areas that the heat wave was mostly affect coral. They set up camera and in each location which need underwater construction. It may sound easy, but installing camera underwater takes load of communication and strength as it's an environment unsuitable for human, which all the effort the team had put in, but sadly all of their footage was out of focus, causing most to all of it become unstable. This led them to redesigning the cameras and its container and placing it in the water of Australia. One team was sent to Keppel Island and another team Herring Island. Due to tropical cyclone storm, Keppel Island and Herring Island were no longer ideal spot as the storm brought in loads of cold water and rain. Then they decide to do all the filming. Then they decide to do all the filming themselves without any aid from computers or programs. They went to New Caledonia and Lizard Island, where they know extensive coral bleaching was going on due to the rising water temperature. They take small time out of their day to photograph reef and help the team complete their experiment and figure out how to stop these bleaching events.
Assalamualaikum and hi everyone. My name is Nur Alia Natasha binti Nur Azuha and my metric number is 216206. Today I'm going to share with you guys the characters in this documentary. We start with Jeff Olorski, is the director for this documentary. Zachary Rago is an underwater camera technician and he is the main character for this documentary. Richard Roberts is an underwater photographer. Dr. Phil Dustin and Dr. James Porter both are marine biologists. Dr. Ruth Gate is a coral reef biologist. Trevor Mendelow is an underwater camera engineer. Andrew Ackerman is a dive master and underwater cinematographer. Dr. John Charlie Varren is the greatest authority on coral. Mark Incan and Ovi Hope Goodberg. As I mentioned before, Zachary Rago is the main character in this documentary. Zachary Rago is an underwater camera technician. When he was young, he is growing up in Colorado and his activity is catching up exotic animals like snakes. He found the activity was cool until one day he need to be moving to Hawaii with his family, and in Hawaii he found a new world to be explored and the world called ocean. Zack fell in love with ocean as a whole and thing he really enjoyed the most is coral. He even has a big tank in his house and only places coral in that tank. Here is the turning point where he started to study more about coral and thinking about the action that can be taken when this coral is threatened with extinction. Zack is a person who loves aquatic life, especially coral, and is willing to spend his whole life studying about coral so that this species is not threatened with extinction. But here is the issue discussed in this documentary is the extinction of reefs, which is getting worse day by day due to the global warming, but still be ignored by humans because they did not really know what is exactly happened inside the sea. His decision to help in the coral rescue mission was influenced by his deep passion for coral. As Zack saw nearly 50% of the coral in Hawaii die, he planned to record the bleaching process happened to the coral to be broadcasting to the public. Zack met with John Varron to get help in the form of a camera to be placed in the ocean. The recording process did not go as planned because all the pictures taken were useless. Then, Zack and his team came up with another plan where Zack is willingly to go to the sea every day at 9 a.m. for 45 days. Through his action, we can say that Zack's passion towards the coral is so deep until he is willingly to go to the ocean every day for at least a month to taking the picture of the bleaching process by himself. After met with Charlie Barrow, one of the greatest authorities on coral, he got his spirit back and continued the journey to save the coral. He started to remember again his life principle that shared by the Charlie, which is you are not going to love yourself if you don't keep trying to influence people. At one point, Zack decided to step away from this rescue because he felt disappointed with himself because he is watching something that he really enjoyed die, while others did not even care about it. From here, we can see that the decisions taken by Zack are influenced by his emotion, which are anger and frustration in him.
My name is Noor Aisha binti Noor Azizi, my matrix number 216163, and I am going to elaborate the advantages, disadvantages, and consequences of these practices. In these practices, there are a lot of advantages to both the researchers and us as watchers. First of all, we can study the importance of ocean existence in which it controls weather, climate, oxygen, and many more on this earth. We also learn the structures of corals as they consist of small structures called polyps and how it is internally complex. Moreover, the knowledge regarding symbiosis is also earned in these practices. Aside from that, regarding corals, we realize that coral reefs organism can help society. For example, rice taken from coral rhizomes can fight cancer, and a drug namely prostaglandin comes from sea ferns that fights cancer. Not only that, coral reefs produce breakwater, protecting people from big waves in a cyclone. This documentary have given an awareness to people on how global warming is affecting the coral lives and the effects of bleaching. While there are advantages, there must also be disadvantages in these practices. One of them is these researchers who dash to place the camera underwater cannot communicate with their team underwater. Due to ocean being vast, they can only see limited creatures in the ocean as others are unknown or probably lost as years pass by. It also consumes a long time to capture the bleaching process of the corals due to challenges such as unpredictable weather. Throughout this documentary, the grievance from the scientists are felt due to the consequences received. Over the years, global climate change due to carbon emitted into the atmosphere as 93% heat absorbed by the ocean and caused coral loss. In the last 30 years, a total of 50% corals lost in this world. Waste disposal in the water also affects the corals and underwater creatures' lives. For instance, extinction of underwater creatures such as such as seahorse, which is dragon-like with a foot long. A consequence for the researchers is exhaustion from these practices, or physical tiredness of being underwater for many hours, of having to set up the camera and making sure everything is good to go.
Hello, my name is Nur Aisha binti Zarilan and my metric number is 216180. And now I'm going to state the list of claims and arguments that are found in this documentary, which is Chasing Coral. So first is reefs are where much of the seafood begins their life, and they are also the source of income and the source of food for over 500 million people around the world. Then, the planet will not be healthy without having a healthy ocean. Other than that, a coral is an animal with lots of tiny structure that we can call as polyps. Moreover, the rise in temperature causes the colorful coral reefs turn into white. The rise in temperature is between 1 degree Celsius until 4 degrees Celsius. Other than that, sea surface temperature is rising, which caused the coral bleaching event. Next, Dr. John Charlie Vernon is known as the godfather of the coral reef science in the early of 1980s. Moreover, the corals are the real basis of the ecosystem in the world. Then, the emitting of carbon into the atmosphere causes the global climate change. Other than that, the life of a quarter of the ocean are affected if the coral reefs are lost, and the last one is the loss of the Great Barrier must be an awakened alarm to the world to raise people self-conscious. So next, I'm going to explain and state the facts and values that also can be found in this documentary. So for facts, first, 50% of the world's coral were lost in the last 30 years. This fact is being supported with an evidence of them doing a research at the ocean by observing and capturing image of the changes in coral reefs. Next, the symbiont for the corals is incorporated in the organism. Usually, two different types of different organism is needed for mutually benefiting each other. Other than that, the first widespread bleaching event occurred in the early 1980s. This fact is also being supported with a statistic in the temperature rise in the ocean that can be observed through a satellite. Next, most people are very hard to be advised by the impact of climate change to the sea, and the last fact is 29% of the Great Barrier Reefs died in 2016, and also this fact is being supported with an evidence of them doing a research at the ocean. So for values, the first values is responsible. People must have their own responsibility in themselves to not throw rubbish into the ocean and also any public place to avoid any kind of pollution to the world. The second value is self-awareness. People must have self-awareness in themselves to improve the world healthiness together. So the third value is courageous. People must be a motivated and a courageous person in order to influence other people, fixing the world together to be a better place in the future, so we can create a safe place for the young and the next generation to live. And the last values is teamwork. People must be supporting and must be helping each other in order to achieve the best outcomes and the best achievements.
Assalamualaikum and good day to everyone. I am Nur Ain binti Abdul Muttalib with the metric number of 216153, and I'm going to talk about bioethical compliance and non-compliance. First thing first, what's compliance? Compliance is the act or process of complying to a demand or to a coercion, which in this case would be bioethics. How the Chasing Coral documentary comply with bioethics? Firstly, the principle of beneficence, which is a bioethics principle, is seen as the biologists conducted a research on corals to understand more about the bleaching event to prevent the extinction of corals that can harm the water ecosystem. Another scene in the documentary that I find complying with a bioethic would be when the scientists encourage and influence people all over the world to protect the water ecosystem, especially the corals, and reduce the rate of climate change by reducing pollution and greenifying cities, are also one of the principle of bioethics, which is the respect for autonomy and positive obligation. Next, we're going to go into the bioethical non-compliance. You may be wondering, what does it mean by non-compliance? Non-compliance is defined as the fact of not obeying a rule or a law that controls a particular industry or type of work or even an activity. One of the examples of non-compliance that I can see through the movie is the global climate change due to people being unaware of the warming of the planet, which leads to corals' death or worse, extinction, and corresponding to billions of people lose their food and life source. This goes against the principle of non-maleficence, which is not to inflict harm to others. Another example of non-compliance in the documentary that I can find is when Dr. Charlie Varren admitted that he stayed silent and did not make any change even when acknowledging the fact that the corals are dying and in danger, where in this decision, he defies the respect of autonomy in a positive obligation of not disclosing information for good. In conclusion, the best way to deal with compliance, at least in this case, would be letting people all over the world see the danger that corals and water ecosystem is facing through biology's eyes and understanding so that they can help making a change for a better future of our world. Slowly but surely. Thank you.
Hello everyone. The last thing that I need to discuss from these documentaries is the lesson that I learned from the film that can be useful in my field of study or in a possible working environment that I might encounter after I graduate or something that relevant to my life. So the first thing is this documentary remind us of the need to conserve our wonderful oceans and all the marine life that they support, especially for all divers and us stuck. Net, this team's effort and cooperation to achieve the goal of the research, such as to prove the existence of coral bleaching and show the public how urgently help is needed, is very important in many aspects as well as career. Then, advanced technology to observe and capture the result in helping the progress of the research. And lastly is symbiosis and taxonomy, we are also discussed in this documentary. I can take the thing I learned throughout this course and use the knowledge to get a deeper understanding of a real world problem. Thank you.